Hey students, I'm back, your pottery professor. So this is my second video for today, and I want to show you about making a carved textured cup from a pinch method. It's the first method that we learned in Ceramics 1, but it's actually a method that can really be developed very highly. If you go to one of the websites like the one we started off looking at, just Google Model Ortiz, which is a Mexican village in Chihuahua, where they have really brought the art of making hand-built vessels to a very refined state and very beautiful pieces that are incredibly beautiful and symmetrical and well designed. Just real incredible pieces. But we pass by it, pinch pots pretty quickly as we're going through our hand building methods. Even my Ceramics 2 students could benefit from this, especially since your access to the potter's wheels we have here has now been very limited, if non-existent. So why not do the hand building methods and work this way? And so I want you to start off, and we're going to make textured cups with a small ball of clay, not as big as your fist. This one is about the size of a lime, maybe a lemon or a lime, or one of those small little halo oranges or cuties, those guys. Make a nice round ball first, and you're going to make your pinch pot. Leave it a little, well, sometimes I don't have to ask my students to leave things on the thick side. Seeing what has gone through the kiln so far, you don't want to go too thin, but don't leave it too thick. But you want some clay that you can carve into. So I start off by inserting my thumb into the ball of clay down to the bottom, and I feel for my depth. And, I'm looking at about 3/16 of an inch of thickness. I can feel it. I don't measure it. I just kind of feel it and feel for a good thickness. And then I work from the bottom, pinching towards the top. And I know there are students that struggle with this and really don't refine this technique, but it can actually be a very refined technique, and I'm going to show you that. I'm just kind of going to pinch this out very quickly to show you how fast you could actually form it through the pinch method. And I'm going to show you a piece that I started a little bit earlier, in between this video and the last one, and I've been able to bring it a little closer towards completion, so I don't have to make a very, very long video, because making a pinch pot like that is not very difficult. Most children can do this. And if you have kids at home, if you have younger siblings that might be at home with you, or other family members that are inside the house, maybe you'll engage them inside this, at least to make some pinch pots and get their hands busy. It's good. It's good for their concentration. It helps take away anxieties. And I find myself really getting into this when I was, quote, on my lunch break between videos, preparing pieces for this this demonstration. And I'll show you what I did in just a moment here. But what I start out is I pinch this cup shape out, and now it's about the size of my fist. I'd say pretty close to it if I were to look at it that way. Be a good cup size. Now you can refine shape. If you want it to be a little flatter on the bottom, you can push the bottom out. If your clay keeps cracking, I remember people having that problem. That's because you're not pinching, you're pushing. If you stretch the clay too much, pushing it out from the inside, it will likely just crack. The clay only stretches so much, but it compresses a lot better. So when you're pinching, you're actually compressing from both sides. And you're changing the shape of the clay that way, and when you're compressing, cracks don't develop because you're not stretching the clay so much. And so you see I have very few cracks in this, and nice soft clay, fresh out of the bag, and working really good. So I'm going to leave it about this thickness, and that's kind of good for what I'm going to do. What I did in between the break, I sped up the process a little bit. You need it to kind of stiffen, and so you got to give it some time. And today in Virginia Beach, it's raining out. It's really blowing outside here in Bray Village, and so things aren't going to dry very fast. So I used my heat gun, and this isn't a hair dryer. It is a heat gun, but it is like a hair dryer. It's just not as noisy. And I set it down and dried the piece. You want to dry things evenly if you do that. If you find you have a nice sunny day, you could set it out in the sun, but you have to rotate it every few minutes so that you don't dry out just one side, or else your piece will warp. And you got to watch it, because it could dry out really quickly on a hot sunny day. But you could use a hair dryer. I hate the sound of hair dryers. They're so loud. I don't know how you can put that close to your ear and blast your head with all that noise. I think Tesla has shown us that powerful doesn't have to be loud. So maybe the manufacturers will figure that out. Dyson did in his vacuum cleaners. Maybe we can get a silent hair dryer. That'd be awesome. Get Dyson working on that thing, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. I'm going to give that a little bit of a flat bottom. I just kind of pounced it on the table there. And this is something that I want it to set up before I do anything else. Once it sets up, what I did with it is I took my scraper. If you have a scraper like this in your pottery toolkit, this is the flexible metal one. It's good for kind of polishing down the sides and smoothing out the finger bumps you might have left in the sides of your piece. And I have it upside down. Another way, if you don't have a turntable at home, you probably don't, this might work for you. Just a piece of printer paper will help it turn. It also keeps the dirt off your table, but it will spin a little bit better on your table. Little tricks, you know, little inventive things. And I picked that up from a YouTube video. I was watching some before I made mine to kind of get an idea of what I was going to do, and how I was going to proceed with finishing up our semester, College at Home 2020. It's interesting, I had a conversation with one of my colleagues earlier today from several feet away, and we were saying, well, now that the toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak, and we figured out ways to teach art online, we might have to do this more often. It seems that a lot of students like to learn online, and if we could come up with courses, we could certainly increase our student base from just the people that come to our campus and live on our campus, but other people that live anywhere inside the world, basically. So this is a possibility. So see how I refined that and smoothed down some of those pieces. The other thing you could do, if you have tools at your access, and a lot of you won't, but I have a Sureform rasp here. And this works best when it's leather hard, and this clay is not. I just pinched it out. But you could then shave down any of the lumps and bumps and refine your cup a little bit. And I like to use it especially across the rim to smooth that down. Well, it's not so much smoothing, but even it. You can even the top really easily with the Sureform rasp. And the shavings are awesome for making into slip. Once they dry out, they make really good slip. So I usually save those. You might remember that. Put them in a little cup or a little plastic bag or something. Leave it open so it dries, and you can use those to make slip, and you'll use that. But keep it dry until you need it, and then mix it up. So the other thing I want to do is make a base for this. See, this would be the cup part, but I want to make a base of it. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be another cup. but smaller, kind of like a little chalice, you know, a little chalice base. So if this was my original block of clay, about the size of a key lime, I'm going to pinch off maybe 1/4 of that, right? And I'm going to make it into a nice round ball. And yeah, that's about a round 1-inch round ball. And I am going to do the same thing. And it's actually kind of interesting to try to pinch out a very small ball of clay like this. I'm going to insert my thumb into it, and see I rotate the clay as I do that to make it insert evenly. And now I'm going to pinch that a little bit to thin it down. Thin down the clay, and I start at the bottom, or this bottom. I thin it down there first, and then I work towards the top. And it's going to be a little pointy right now, but I'm going to do away with that in a minute. I'm going to flatten it in a minute. But first, I will go and pinch around the thicker part that is closer to what would be the top if I was making like a little pinch bowl, a little tiny one, right? So that's going to be my base. So I'm going to put it on like that. We're going to flatten that off in just a moment. Let me just get it pinched out right. And what I'm doing is really feeling the clay, trying to get an overall even thickness. So if there's lumpiness, I kind of work that out by kind of compressing the clay even. So it's no longer lumpy, no longer has little high spots all over the place from my finger that does it. And so I have this with this point here. I'm going to take the opportunity to flatten it here on the table. And check my phone is still going. We're still recording here. So I'm just going to drop that down on the table lightly, very lightly. You don't want to really deform your piece. See how I flattened that down. I'm going to drop it a little bit more because I need it a little flatter. I made it kind of wide, flat base for this piece. So what I'm trying to do is make like a little chalice base for it so I can attach that on there. Now this has a lot of extra clay down there. I probably ought to remove some of that. Another cool tool that you might have to do that would be your loop trim tool. If you have excess clay, you can use that, and that's, you know, it is meant to be a trim tool. I should do this on the paper again. That actually worked pretty good. And I saved the trimmings. Again, I can use those for making slip. So I'm going to revolve that around. I can trim the base, and you got to do all the finishing kind of now before you add that base on. Don't be in a hurry to put your base on. So eventually, once that's leather hard, I can kind of put those together. They match up a little bit better now. But I'm not ready to do that yet. Let me show you what I've done. And this was anticipating showing you this and trying to finish up this video a little faster than the last one. I spent a little too much time on that. Imagine my students think so. And so what I did is I made one of these cups earlier for you, and I stiffened it up a little bit with my heat gun. And you can see I drew some designs on it, and what I was thinking about were like wave designs. And I drew some designs on there first that looked like waves going around the whole pot. I went over the whole pot with just a pencil, and it just leaves a very basic line. You could use your needle tool to draw that line, but you're not going to leave it that way. What I want to do is take my other loop trimming tool, the one that looks like a stick with a loop on one end. This one has a little corner that is a little pointy. And what I do with that is I went in and I carved my design all the way around. And this is kind of fun. While I was doing it, you know, it's very contemplative, and you have to concentrate on what you're doing. And you can see that, maybe. I hope the lighting is good enough here. But maybe you can see some of the designs that I carved in there just with that carving tool. And if you didn't have one of those loop tools, you could try other things. I have a vegetable peeler here, and it has a little point that's kind of like a scoop on the end. I think they use that to, gouge out the little eyes in a potato that people might not want to eat, and so you kind of dig them out with that. That also could be used, I think, for carving around, maybe even a small pocket knife if you have something like that. You could try other little tools to do some carving. The needle tool I don't highly recommend for that. It's very scratchy and it makes just very, very fine lines. If you did have no other tools, maybe try an old ballpoint pen that's dried out, doesn't work anymore. And actually push into it with that, and that rounded ball end will give you a nice line to draw into your piece with. But I like the texture that I created on this one. I wanted to show you something that was kind of interesting. See that little round spot there? I want to show you what I would do with the drill bit. And let me get my drill bits here. Come back into view. I've got a few drill bits here, and I don't want to drill all the way through. You could. It wouldn't be a cup then anymore, but what I want to do is make just a rounded divot. And I'm going to hold this just right. Steady myself. And I twist it just very gently. Look at that cool divot that I just made. And you like that? I like that. That's all right. So I had another spot right there. I was going to do another one for you. Let's go for it. I'm liking it. So you can see I'm starting to loosen up with the idea of talking to a camera. Having never made videos before, but having taught classes for many years, about 25 years now I've been teaching. I'm getting comfortable with it. I had a friend, Barclay Sheeks, who started the art department here at Virginia Wesleyan University. Barclay was a painting instructor, and he was one of the people that was here when I was hired 21 years ago. And I got to be good friends with Barclay and worked with him for many years. He used to do a TV show on acrylic painting on PBS, and he had trouble. He told me about taping it, and he had trouble actually just talking to a camera and doing his demonstrations that he would normally do to a camera. And they had to go get like an intern to sit behind the camera on a stool so he had a person to talk to. But I'm talking to a ladder right now. I got a step ladder, and my phone is being held to a tripod that is bungee corded to a step ladder, and my phone is being held to that tripod with 2 rubber bands. And so we're gonna get this done. This is cool. You hear me saying that over again. So one of the other things I would do with this, see how sharp that rim is? I want to fix that. I don't want to leave that. I could take my sponge, and what I do is I press down with the sponge, one finger on the inside, one on the outside, and rotate. And that will round over your top, and it will take off any sharp edges that are up there and smooth those out. And I would work all the way around to smooth those out. Now something else that I learned that's kind of cool, you could try the vegetable peeler across the top. Haven't done that in a while, so I'm a little worried. I'm going to make kind of a wavy top. It's working good now, so I'm going to go for it. You know, sometimes you got to take a chance. What do you got to lose? This is just clay. You know, it's not like you're, well, you only have a little bit of it, so that is a problem. But it's just clay. Wonderful stuff, but it's just dirt. It comes from the ground. It's all over the place. Not really, but maybe. I like what that did, but it leaves a real sharp, flat edge. I could do it on an angle. Round it over that way. Let's try that. Well, to do it for you, make the sacrifice. We'll see how it works. Kind of like how that worked. I'm going to do the same thing on the inside to take the sharpness off that, and then I'll go back over it with the sponge. Now I haven't dealt with the inside yet. I'm going to smooth that out just a little bit. And I'm finding the vegetable peeler is kind of cool in there. The other thing you could do is you can get your scraper in there. It's kind of tight, that's a little big. What's going to work very good is my smaller of my 2 spoons. I can actually get the spoon in there and smooth. It's an awesome tool. Kitchen spoon, you know, a little teaspoon. You think, you know, pottery's been made for thousands and thousands of years by people who didn't have spoons. So what did they use? You know, they came up with something. I'll let you work on that. Think about it. It's all kinds of tools. You can even look it up. That'd be a good research project for a student, someone who wants to be a scholar. So, I got that smoothed out just a little bit in there, and my outside, I meant to go over this rim. I could smooth that out. And now, I got a pinch pot, but I don't have the base on there yet, so I'm going to add that for you. So remember, I pinched this first base out. It's kind of soft. This one I pinched out earlier, and I firmed it up a little bit. It's been air drying a little bit. This one too, I could refine a little bit, and then I'm going to glue it on. So I'll give it a couple drags with the Sureform rasp. I like what this does too. It's an awesome tool. I use it so many ways. And I'm going to level it a little bit. Clean up any sharpness that I might find. And then these two get added together by scoring and slipping. So I'll do that, and then we'll wrap this video up. And then you have another project you can play around with. And you can take your pick what you want to start on first. I'm also working on some projects that I can share with all my classes. I've got 4 classes, 2 beginning ceramics, ceramics 2, which can do these same projects but at a higher level, right? I mean, you haven't really perfected all this yet, right? So you could actually invest your time into this and come out having learned something and made pieces at a higher level. So I've got ceramics 1, ceramics 2. I'm trying to get them to share similar video projects so that I don't have to come up with 4 classes worth of content for the next 7 weeks, which is not kind of the teaching load I would normally do. I usually teach 4 classes over 16 weeks, so I have a little time to get these things going. And even our online classes that we offer are 8-week courses, but most faculty, I don't think they teach more than 1 in 8 weeks. They might teach 1 in the first 8 weeks of a semester and another in the second 8 weeks of the semester. But usually that's 1 course, is my understanding. Most of our faculty are here teaching day courses and additionally teaching some online courses. So I scored and slipped these guys. I'm going to put them together and make sure the slip squeezes out. That is really important, that you press these pieces together really well. But you don't want to deform them. But I do want to see the slip squeeze out, because that tells me that they are starting to work together. And often when I do that, I back up, both sides. I push from both sides, not just one side. And I make sure I got really good contact. Because if something's going to come apart, it's going to come apart at the seam. And then I'm going to clean it up a little bit. I'm looking for something to clean my finger with. Find a piece of canvas there, that'll work. Clean that up. Look at that. Man, that is a chalice right there. Cheers. So you could really do up these cups quite nicely. But I think this is a really fun project to do. I love the textures that you can create with the loop tool and carving into it. You might try some of these, and that's what I want to send you off with, a nice little chalice cup you can try. And so I'm going to end up this video. I hope you all are safe and well, and your families are too. And please make sure you let me know if there's any challenges to your proceeding with your class assignments, and I'll try to help you out with that. If you're out there in YouTube land and you found my video, you're not one of my students, I hope you enjoyed it. That you maybe subscribe to the page and pick up some more. My channel, not my page, but subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll try to post some more. I'm going to get on the wheel pretty soon, show some wheel demonstrations. Folks out there might really like those, and they'd be really good for my students as kind of class participation, watching to see what us potters can do with clay. Hopefully impress you and encourage you to do this more. Your students that are here at Virginia Wesleyan have the opportunity to take this class at the beginning level and the intermediate level, and then there is even an advanced level for you. So come take classes if you want. That's all I got for you today. So let's wrap this up, and good day to you. I hope you feel well. Everything's going well. Take care.